Hey there, founders. I'm here with Cole, founder and CEO of StageConnect. You're the founder and CEO, right? No co-founders, or do you have co-founders?
I have one co-founder.
One
Yes.
co-founder. So co-founder, and you are the CEO of StageConnect. This is going to be a really interesting one. I admit Cole kind of flew under the radar in our startups.com community. I was telling him, then I heard him share about his journey and what he was building. And I said, why haven't I talked to this guy yet? So this has been great that we're able to connect. Thanks, Cole, so much. Let's jump into some qualifications right away. Um, so what stage is your product at? How much money have you made and how much money have you raised? It's just kind of a great way to establish where we are for everybody who's going to be watching this.
Yeah, totally. So I would consider us at a late seed or pre-A stage. We've raised 1.5 million so far. Been super grateful. It was all guys from New England here, which is always fun where I live. And we have about 100 and we'll say 150,000 in validated revenue. But I would consider us pre-revenue with our actual product.
Mute. Let me try that again. In essence, you pre-sold or pre-validated your startup with $150,000 in revenue. Then you went out and raised 1.5 million to build the solution. And then what stage is the solution at?
We're at our V1. We're
Okay.
V1/MVP is in the market currently. We launched at a industry event called NAB about 2 months ago.
Oh, very familiar. So, okay. So in your own words, what is StageConnect?
So StageConnect is scalable human connection, and we do that through real-time, two-way live streaming built for events.
Okay.
So kind of think of it like a enterprise version of Zoom for up to 1 million people. And we have a patent pending tag system that controls who you see, when, and why. So you're always talking to the right people at the right time.
Okay, so let's take a look. This is your current pitch deck.
It is, yep.
Going on. So you're kind of putting you're talking about what is current today. Hybrid events aren't dead, they're evolving. And then digital display product of the year 2022, that was from NAB, which is fantastic. Before we get into that, what's the story behind the idea? How did you come up with the idea? And like, what was going through your mind to say, hey, this is a problem and I want to solve it?
So I have the 10-second version of my life from like 18 to, I don't know, 30 is always been an entrepreneur. First business at 14, worked for Apple for a bit, started working in the events industry. I actually worked for Tony Robbins and ran his events for years. So I had events. I also worked in film and reality TV, got some fun awards and some TV stuff I did. And then I went and did live streaming because events and film makes live streaming. I also had a web agency, so I guess combine all three of those: events, web, and film is live streaming. So I was running a live streaming company, and I was Matt, my now co-founder, was a Emmy award-winning event producer. So was a good friend of mine. We're always, we'd have drinks after shows and whatnot. And we're like, man, I like talking to you. I like working with you. We should find some way to do some business together. What do you guys, what do we have for ideas? Like, let's just have one of those like sessions of like, what could we do together? And we had the idea that like, hey, we're streaming 10,000 people that are, in the ether. They're on the internet. You can't see them. There's 5,000 people in the room, 10,000 people online. The speaker should be able to see some of these people. Like, we have no idea who they are. This could be a completely different demographic, and they'd have no idea. So let's just show like 10 people or 20 people to the speaker in real time. So we started working on that in November of 2019. So 2 months before COVID. And when COVID hit, the whole events industry shut down. Our friends and family were out of work. And we basically said, like, we don't need to just build this for us, but we need to build this for like our friends, our family, our clients, the industry, saying, please save us somehow. So I already had some live stream tech. We started working on the idea, and then we went for it.
Okay, let's point out a few important things, and I can't hammer this enough. for the founders who are listening to this, and I really appreciate. I'm so glad you brought up how you and your co-founder came together. So first, you have domain expertise in entertainment as far as streaming and an agency and all those things. So you're on the front lines, and your whole life you're seeing the challenges that users will have. COVID hits, everything really gets amplified. And so because you're on the front lines, you see those problems. But in the meantime, you've got someone who is also highly experienced and has the same domain expertise, and you're just talking like, how could we solve this? Let's have some ideas type thing. You didn't go out and say, hey, I'm starting this company, let's go have a shotgun marriage and find a co-founder. You both really hammered the ideas together first, probably got to, you were already friends, probably got to know each other in terms of what co-founder relationship could look like, and then you decided to put that together. Walk us through a little bit, like, what advice would you give to other founders out there? Because we hear so many horror stories of people saying, I need a technical co-founder, so I'm just going to go hire one and offer. You had those conversations. What advice would you give, particularly in when do you know that you should go start a company together? Because that's a big commitment.
I said at some point in my career, after like my third or fourth company and partnership exploded, I will never have a partner again. So I was like, I was really careful, and I'm going to use the word lucky probably a lot this as we're talking, but ever since I was really little, my father always said luck is just prior preparation meeting an opportunity. There's no such thing as luck. So I've always tried to follow that. But if I say lucky, that's read as. So I am very lucky that both Matt and I have done a lot of work. So we both work for Tony Robbins. We've been in that personal development community a long time. And I think that while ego is always there, I'm very extremely lucky that Matt just seems to have doesn't let his ego ever get in the way. Our relationship is extremely matter of fact. Our communication is A+. We say what we have to say. Hard conversations aren't hard. We just have conversations. And I knew that was always how we were able to speak with each other. So I knew if nothing else was a fit, we could make it work, just because our communication could happen at the level that it needs to happen to run a startup. So thankfully we have all the other fits too, but yeah.
And I want to point out for other founders, investors listen to these types of stories. Like the way that Cole, you just spoke about your co-founder, Matt, that's a very important data point or a signal when investors are looking through a startup, because that's or looking to invest in a startup, because that's one of the main reasons startups fail, is when co-founders can't get along and therefore aren't working together to solve the problems and manage the money, or cap table issues, or they start fighting, everything kind of shuts down. So I would say you're lucky, as you say, but at the same time you had the experience and you drew upon these partnership experiences that you had, and thankfully at least you were open enough to say, I'm never going to work with a partner again, but you know what, let's have these conversations and change my mind. So that's fantastic. All right, so let's move a little bit further along. Actually, let's go back to here. You decide to launch at NAB. And so how did that come about? Like, that's an interesting strategy to launch it there. And then you won the award. So it's an interesting go-to-market strategy to unveil your product. Walk us through that. How did that happen? What happened? How do you feel about it?
We knew we were going to be nominated. We hired a really great PR company that had some inside knowledge that we applied. They were like, you should probably go. You're probably going to get nominated. So that was a little bit of a leg up. But my quasi co-founder, not technical co-founder, but has worked with Matt and I since almost the beginning, Chris Hogan, he's our current VP of growth. He has been to NAB, I don't know, like 15 times. So I'm event technology, Matt is event production, Chris is streaming media. So Chris has worked for Wowza very early on. He was a C-suite at Wowza, which if anyone doesn't know, they were like the first streaming engine. That's what YouTube started on. It's what, like, this was the technology that powered stuff before the cloud was really, video enabled. So he's worked for, many of the big companies. He helped Facebook Live launch, Vimeo Live launch, et cetera, et cetera. So Livestream back then, livestream.com. So he was like, we got to go to NAB. I wanted to go to NAB. I actually met Chris at an NAB. So it was kind of this like, man, it would be so cool to go back to the place where I met Chris and discovered so many of these technologies for my streaming company. I just had this feeling we should go and do it. And especially being in the pandemic for so long, we weren't able to get in front of a lot of customers like we used to. So it seemed like there was going to be a lot of people at the show this year. It just seemed like everyone was searching for it. And it would be the one place we could physically have a conversation about virtual events. And it just happened to work really well.
Well, and that's a great example of pretty much customer discovery or setting yourself up for customer discovery. Let's go where all the people where we believe are going to have the pain points or gather together and, and they're talking. So you never want to discount going and talking to them face to face. I'm sure you had a bajillion fantastic conversations, just getting feedback. My question is, how much did your mind change? Like talking to all of them, were you like, oh, we're reaffirming what we already knew? Did you have any surprises? Like, what were those conversations like?
The first person that walked up to our booth was Shopify. I don't know. Sorry, my dog's
Nice.
walking here. Literally 9:01 a.m. show open. Shopify walks up, and it's holy blank. We have been looking for this solution. Where have you guys been? And we're like, Matt and I and Chris are looking at each other like, all right, Shopify, sweet. Apple's creative director walks up. Holy blank, we've been looking for this solution. Where have you guys been? Google's global events director, Toyota, IBM, Aflac, like 26 Fortune 100, 500 companies came up to us at NAB saying, we've been trying to solve this. Yes, please. So that was a major, like we knew that we had something that the industry needed because we've been doing it in probably in 2 or 3 slides further. You'll see how people have been doing this before StageConnect, and we knew exactly why that wasn't tenable for most people. So it shifted our thinking into that, we can target not only these, small to medium to large events, but like Fortune 500s have a real need for this in the corporate world. And we probably need to very quickly sprint to version 2, not next year, but right now.
Wow. Again, let's break this down. For all the founders listening, one of the surefire signs of you have figured out problem solution fit and you are about to crack product market fit open is when the users come to you, they run to you and they say, thank God you're solving this problem. I have this problem. They're running to you to validate what's going on. You're not the one, interrupting them and saying, can you just give us some feedback and, what have you. As soon as they see it, they recognize your unique value proposition and they validate it for you, which is a really great sign. And that's one of the signs that a lot of people, they ask me, they say, when do I know if I have product market fit? And I just say, you won't have to ask that question. Like you'll know. Right. And so that was a great experience and what you had there, which fantastic. This is a great story and very inspiring. I'm sure a lot of founders are going to find this inspiring. So you wrote here in your pitch deck, effective communication requires an active understanding of needs. A feedback loop is the foundation of communication. As audience size scales, communication becomes disconnected, which is very true. Real-time two-way communication at scale for presenters on stage is the future. All right. So, the value proposition there. And then StageConnect is a live stream platform built for live events, real-time, two-way, interactive, cloud-based. Before we move into that a little more and how you've been pitching it, let's go all the way back to your first iteration of the pitch deck. How did you raise $1.5 million? What's the story? Walk us through it.
It's a really good question. We've spent so much time in the last 2 or 3 months on shifting our product positioning that I'm I hope I've buried this, so I don't even remember what the first one was because it wasn't that great. It was good enough to raise 1.5 million,
Good
but
enough. Yeah.
but but honestly, we were not connecting. Like when January, when we were doing some like early outreach, it was not connecting. We had 2 or 3 months of potential customers just being like, "That's cool," and then we shifted like 3 words, and I'll tell you exactly what they were, and then they were all like, "Yes, please," and thankfully we had that done before NAB. So we're able to go to NAB with that. So we were calling ourselves Enterprise Scale Audience Interaction Platform.
Okay.
And while that makes a lot of sense to me and the team and anyone who is trying to do this, an audience interaction platform is not a thing anyone knows how to rank against anything. No one knows what it is, so you don't know how to compare it. Um, so when we started calling ourselves real-time two-way live streaming, everyone goes, "Oh, I know what live streaming is," and "Oh, I didn't realize that streaming wasn't real-time." And of course, it's not one way, but I didn't know that it could be. So all of a sudden, they put us in this box of live streaming, and then we're up to the top right corner because we have 2 features that no one else has.
That's great. But then, okay, so okay, let's separate out the conversation. I know going to market and having people understand and buy the product, but then you had to have told investors and shown investors something and had to have found the right investors to have enough insight to say, one, they're probably saying, I like your domain expertise. I believe that you can build it. Clearly, you understand the problem. And somehow they had to have resonated with the problem. So I guess I'm curious, like, who were these investors, VCs,
Yeah,
friends,
let me get
family, and yeah.
I'll get my original pitch deck and just read you the problem statement from it. So it was StageConnect audience interaction platform, and we opened with opportunity. We said the opportunity is that all in-person events went virtual. So now there's a shift. Virtual and hybrid events are now mainstream, and new event types have been born. Virtual concerts, all these things. And we had a picture of the adopter curve, right? You have the early adopters, the majority, and the late majority. And then we had an overlay of a thing going like this, straight up, saying that the early adopters was the majority. It's very, very few times in history has it been where you have the majority adopt at the same time as early adopters. There's been very, very few things that have done that, and they've all
Gotcha.
been very successful, and they've never gone away after it's been adopted. It's just ingratiated into society. So we opened with the opportunity, and then the problem was virtual interactive events do not scale, and the human connection feedback loop is broken between a presenter and an audience. So we had that thought of like, we painted the picture just verbally, that when you're on stage and you're talking at this camera, you're talking to this barren, lonely glass camera lens that's staring back at you with the little red tally light, and everyone at home is sitting there just feeling talked at on this screen, and it's like, "Oh, hey, what are you doing?" "Oh, I'm just watching a meeting." Like you're disconnected. It's like you're in school again with when the teacher can't hear you or see you. So that was the solution for everyone that they were all adopting. And the solution was StageConnect provides a two-way real-time interaction between the presenter and the audience at scale, repairing that feedback loop. So once you have that feedback loop connected, you don't just spend energy, right? Like when we're talking right now, I see you smiling and nodding and saying yes, and that energizes me to be like, yeah, he gets it. He likes what I like that whole human connection dynamic thing. It spools into this feedback loop. So without that, it's always an energy drain for the presenter, energy drain for the audience because they're having to spend attention versus seeing themselves on a video wall at a show being like, oh, someone can see me. That adds energy to them. So you want to continually add energy to the buckets on both sides. So that was the problem that we were solving, and that's how we explained it.
Okay. And where did you find these investors?
So I got connected with an SBA advisor, the Small Business Administration. Her name's Hollis. She's phenomenal. She actually heads up the SBA advisorship program for New Hampshire. So I'm in New Hampshire, which is like when someone's like, "Oh, you have a startup. Where are you?" New Hampshire's like
It's the
number
last
49
place.
on the list. Like maybe
Yeah.
Alaska's worth. I don't know, but New Hampshire actually has a ton of innovation. Come to find out, we're 45, 50 minutes north of Boston, which is another great innovation hub. But I'm in Nashua, New Hampshire, and Manchester, New Hampshire. We're kind of twin cities. We're 20 minutes apart. Has per capita the same number of startups as Silicon Valley. Fun fact.
Wow.
At least it did. I don't know if it still does, but it did in 2019.
Sure.
So anyways, Hollis got us connected. She's like, yeah, this is a group of angels, Coast Angels. They only do like 4 investments a year, but maybe you can pitch them. So we pitched them. I think we were one of 2 investments they did in 2020 or 2021. So we were very, very lucky that we got investment from them. So they led our round. We had some friends and family that joined in, some other guys in the industry, but they were our lead. And yeah.
All right. Well, moral of the story, don't underestimate the SBA. I know a lot of founders don't think about that whatsoever. I've actually gotten funding or loans or different things from the SBA. You know, it hasn't been huge, but starting to talk to them and get the momentum rolling, I think it's fantastic. Getting access to cheap money from an SBA type loan, especially with what happened with the pandemic, but then on top of which, just the contacts and the connections, because they're plugged into the local ecosystem as well. So never underestimate your local ecosystem. That's what I'm hearing.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So then we have here, like, and I think it's a fascinating story how you said we went out to market, we're trying to explain what we do, and then we just changed these words, and then now we're winning, you know, NAB, you know, et cetera.
By the way, I hired a product manager.
Okay. That's what I was about to ask. Like, how did you make these decisions on the communication, et cetera?
Yeah, February of this year, of 2022, I hired I'd worked with this guy, Kevin is our product manager. I'd worked with him at a large or worked they were one of my clients when I was live streaming. They owned a very, very large digital marketing event, and he was their product manager over at this company. And I always kind of looked up to him and wanted to work with him. And one day we connected, and he actually was like, "Hey man, I would love to come work with you guys. Like, this would be amazing." So it was kind of one of those, like, I've always wanted to work with you. I've always wanted to work with you. Let's do this. So he consulted for a little bit. And during that consulting period, before he transitioned into working for us full time, he was like, "Hey man, like, no one gets what an enterprise audience interaction software is." So he recommended us, our whole team, a book. And it is, I'm blanking on it now. I'll find it while we're talking.
Sure.
But it changed the game. Product fit book. I'm gonna have to keep looking for it. But anyways, we read this book. It was by April Dunford. I'll just look for her. Obviously Awesome is the name of the book. Highly recommend it. It's short. Everyone should read that book. Obviously it's an awesome book. But yep, so that was it. So he came in, we read that book, we went through some of the pieces or exercises in the book, and it was just super obvious. This is what we had to do, and it has worked very well.
You are out there, and this is all while you're doing product development, getting things ready. This is what we recommend to founders all the time. 50% needs to be in development and 50% needs to be in distribution. So clearly you're out there talking to users. In other words, Y Combinator says this all the time. You know, you only have 2 jobs, technically 3. First job is ship product. Second job, talk to users. And third, stay healthy, like, you know, exercise, eat well, get sleep, etc. when you're trying to build a startup. So it's that 50-50 rule, which is fantastic. You're getting feedback and clearly signals from the marketplace, users, I don't get it. Your product manager just kind of lays it out for you, which I know all founders and CEOs, you know, really appreciate. You go through this book. Did you like workshop it and then go out and test it? What was the process after you decide to make some changes? How did you land where you did?
We all read the book over a weekend.
Okay.
Myself, Matt, and Chris, 3 of us. And we just started going through, like, I think it was Kevin that said, "You guys actually are just another live stream platform, aren't you?" And then I started thinking about, you know, through one of the exercises, well, what's our qualifier for what we are? April gave this example that she was selling a CRM, and it was competing with Oracle's CRM or some other CRM. and they were not doing well for the company she was working for. And eventually she went and pitched some investment bankers. She was like, yeah, and here's the thing. And oh, and here's this one feature. And they like stood up, was like, oh my God, that feature's amazing. And ran out of the room and grabbed 4 other guys. Look at this feature. And then she was like, oh, all right, cool. So she went and pitched another investment banker and then like led with that feature. And they all like jumped up and down and bought it on the site. So they rebranded themselves as a CRM for investment bankers. And I was like, oh, right. Now you're not competing with Salesforce. You're not like a shittier, smaller Salesforce. You are investment a CRM for investment bankers. Like, no, you wouldn't use Salesforce. That's not for investment bankers. So we did the same thing of like, oh no, you wouldn't use YouTube to live stream your event. You would use an event, so, or I guess a better one is you wouldn't use Zoom to live stream your event software. Meeting softwares are for me, event software for events. So that has been our champion phrase. Stop using meeting software for events, use event software for events. And that like connected the full circle piece of our product market fit.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. Great story. And so many founders, like, I found it interesting. It was a little bit of a surprising stat I heard from sort of the VC and the accelerator world on how many startups don't even get their first customer. Like they fail, they'll get investment and they'll fail to even get their first customer. What did you sell before? You said you validated, like, what were you selling?
So we cobbled together like 10 Zoom rooms.
Uh-huh.
So we'd bring 10 computers, each running one Zoom room. And then I had my developers build a platform that would round robin people into each Zoom room really quickly. So it looked so that on site, we'd use thousands of dollars of hardware to capture each one of those, crop out things, slice people up. I mean, it was, there's a picture a couple slides further in the deck where you're going to see 75 iMac computers with over 2 miles of cabling. And this is how it's still currently being done if you don't use StageConnect. So we did that very early on, and we sold that to a couple companies, and we did 150, and I actually sold 150K in under 30 days, and then delivered it. And I was like, okay, we'll stop selling this because this software that I'm building and this hardware sucks to work with. This is untenable. Like we can't keep up this pace if we're going to actually build the product. So we just kind of turned that off and went to work kind of in stealth mode.
But again, it was just a great exercise to get really face to face with the problem and to validate that you are the team and you have the chops to be the founders that can pull this off. Let's take a look at this. Now you have me totally curious. I want to see this here. Let's go through kind of the messaging even more. I really like this next slide, just straightforward. No one-way live streams, no 30-second delays, no meeting software, no expensive or complicated hardware, no second-class experience. Fantastic. And then here we've got just a little video. Won't play it, but
yeah,
it's like a demo. And then, okay, so screenshots, which is fantastic. Why real time and two-way? So you're just building the case right there. And then why not use meeting software for live events? So you're making that argument, the distinction between there. And is this the image that you're talking about here?
It is. So this is at a studio in Vegas. So they can do about 60 to 100,000 people live into that, or virtual into that studio. So that's 75 iMac computers. They each have 2 screens. It takes about 10 technicians to operate this. And if you want to, like, hey, is Ed Kang here? Let's talk to Ed Kang. We have to go literally run to the computer, the Zoom meeting that's on the iMac you're on, and unmute on that computer. That's how this works. So it's $500,000 just to even buy that many iMacs and computers and screens. This is not just how this studio is doing it. This is how Tony Robbins is doing it. This is how anyone who's doing these extremely large virtual events. This is the only way to do it. You're 75 iMac computers on site, another 120 in the cloud, and those are actually one-way Zoom meetings. But yeah, they're just basically, we call it hacking Zoom, or using the Apple Orchard as it's fondly known.
Yeah, and what I love hearing about this is I had no idea. Like up until this point in time, I had no idea. And that's the novel insight that you would give investors, in the sense of saying, did you know this is the way that it's done? And just looking at it viscerally, that's so painful to look at it and to think about it and hear. So I can feel the pain. And that just gets people excited for the investment opportunity, especially considering your expertise and your background, your experience with Tony Robbins. Now, you have a story about Tony Robbins. What happened with Tony Robbins?
You're talking about our pitch.
Yeah.
So I'll take it a little bit earlier. So when I was 19, my dad was at home one night after work and was like, just text me, hey, I bought Tony Robbins at a 2-for-1 special. We just got tickets. I'd always wanted to go. I listened to tapes, the old Tony tapes, riding around when I was like 10 years old in my dad's landscaping truck. You know, between jobs, we'd listen to Tony Robbins. So I'd always wanted to go see him in person. Went at 18, 19. After you go, you can go back and volunteer. So I went back. Next show, flew down to Florida on our own dollar and volunteered for one of his shows. Ended up getting involved. And I ended up actually running his shows over the course of 4 years, working my way into the company and running shows around the world. So I'd known him from a very early age. And when it came time for this, we got the opportunity to pitch Tony to be an investor. So a 15-minute call turned into 90 minutes of probably one of the coolest experiences of my life, getting to just, one-on-one, one-on-two, Matt was with me, my co-founder. And we just got to, really chat through our entire business model, our plan, our product. And, he arguably is one of the, it's probably the pinnacle of live events. I mean, there's really no one that does larger, wilder, more immersive events than Tony. So yeah, one of the coolest things I've done for sure.
If you're going to get expert validation in this space, go right to the top. Tony Robbins, it's great. So what ended up happening? Did he invest, or what's the relationship with Tony Robbins now?
Great relationship. He did not personally invest. Kind of a long story why. His company's an ESOP, and ESOPs can't really invest in pre-revenue companies because
Gotcha.
ESOPs are governed by the Board of Labor. That would not be seen as a found financial decision, found investment. So yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea that he was an ESOP. That's actually really cool to hear that. So just as an aside, because I'm intensely curious, what's he like?
Exactly what you see. Like
Really?
the most authentic person, exactly what you see. Yeah, Tony's an incredible human that's changed millions and millions of lives. And virtual events, he was doing 5,000 to 10,000 person events pre-show. I mean, some of his biggest ones were 15, 20,000 people in arenas. His average show now, I think, is like 30,000 people, 60,000 people. They've done up to 100,000 people through virtual. So just amazing how many lives you can touch now with the new tech.
Oh, no doubt. Like you can't deny his results. So is the Tony Robbins organization planning on using the software? Like, do you have a contract with him, or how does that work?
So we don't have the breakout room functionality, and it's something that they use religiously. Many people do, to be able to integrate an experience, right? 100 people in a room, break into groups of 2, talk about it. So it's the next feature we're releasing in StageConnect 1.4. So as soon as we have it, yeah, I mean, we're in line.
Okay, let me just point out something. I think this is a very powerful slide. We don't have time to go through all the slides. I'm going to ask you a few questions about the rest of the deck, but
Sure.
If you just look, like, you clearly broke out the difference between, meeting software and its limitations, and then you highlight the StageConnect, and it's like one, even though you've got all these other dimensions that you can say yes to, that 1 million plus really stands out. I know you did that on purpose. And for a Tony Robbins, he's felt the pain. He goes, okay, this could really move the needle for me, etc. So I know we've got to get that interest. You're developing that interest, and then he provides the feedback, which helps inform. So again, 50% distribution, 50% development. There's that feedback loop that's happening, and now you know what feature to build, which is going to, get a client like Tony Robbins. And once you get Tony Robbins, all the other dominoes start to fall. So let's talk about, what are you doing now? So you're building the next version of product. What are you doing as far as fundraise? What's the plan?
So we're raising a late seed round, pre-A, whatever you want to call it. I feel like there's 100 names for rounds now. So we're doing a $2 to $3 million round right now. That's to build V2. That's for breakout rooms, a whole bunch of other features I can't talk about yet, but they're Some of them I really feel are as industry shifting as our initial product could be. So we're really excited about that. And then push deeply into product-led growth. You know, we're an entirely sales-led growth organization right now. And getting a product like ours where we've literally had to invent new ways to do things. The entire internet is very much server to user, one-way streaming. So we've had to partner with some of the largest companies in the world in the cloud to be able to offer a two-way CDN, basically, that's
Without
global,
delay. Yeah.
with under 200 milliseconds of delay globally, and that we deploy a completely unique and custom CDN per event, so that every single piece of event infrastructure is guarded. So taking that and making it PLG complete SaaS is our next big task.
Okay. And how are you going about approaching this late stage or later seed? Are you going to work through the same angel group? Do you have some other people in line? Like, what's the approach?
We have really good advisors that are helping us through this. We have a really, we love our angel group, so they're working with us as well. So we made a list of dream VCs. We made a list of dream angel groups. Obviously, we'd like our existing investors. We love them to continue on. But there's also, I think, a lot of value in taking a step back and not just like taking what we already have and saying like, okay, but are there other? One thing I had to learn was there's other reasons to have someone invest other than just their money, resources, optics, all of those things. So we're currently in the process of taking a look at like what is the most advantageous mix of investors, and then doing all the outreach.
For sure. And you have to keep in mind, you're doing this to get to A, B, C, D exit, right? You know, who knows how long. So at this point in time, after you launch the product, as soon as you take that seed round, you are in the game, and you have to start thinking end game right away with the end in mind, because all your investors are thinking that as well. They need that asymmetric upside, you know, and that return. So you're clearly in the space to do that. Let me ask a personal question. How's it feel? You went from, you know, running different agencies and doing this, and you talked about kind of some suboptimal, let's just use that word, partnership experiences. And now you're the founder. You're you're going to sign Tony Robbins. Like, you are sitting on a game-changing sort of disruptive tech that Google, Shopify, everyone's running to you and saying, oh my gosh, you've got it. Like, how's it feel as a founder?
It's a roller coaster, man. Anyone else that tells you any other answer is lying through their freaking teeth, man. It is. 3 out of 5 days are incredible. 2 out of 5 days are like, you don't want to do this. I wish I could be happy working at Best Buy, but that's not in my DNA. I'll never do it. And you just think about the days that were great. You think about the mission you're on, the people that we're going to help, what we're going to change, and it gets you through those days. So I think this has been the wildest experience of my life. I'm just humble and grateful to be here. But anyone that says that it's all roses, man, it's not. And you have to remember too that like every time you do really well, there's a new challenge that comes up. It's like, okay, solve this next. It's a never ending problem solve, like next thing. Like, we chose this. This is like our breed. This is our, you know, we're the, it's so weird to say, like, the warriors of our generation, but like, it takes a certain grit and a certain mettle to do this. And like, most people don't even get to, even if they have the personality and all the skills to do this, so few people get to. So I'm just super, super grateful that I get to do this every day. And the team that I have, the 15 people that work with me every day, they're some of the best people I've ever met. And yeah, it's so cool that we get to build this.
Well, already, you know, you have a background in coaching, something that I watch for, like personal development in that industry. Something that I watch for is just the executive presence of the CEO. Clearly, just by the way that you talk, I'm sure that your team is very inspired and very bonded with you. How about the other founders? If you could give some advice. So let me break down this question. If you think back on what you've done so far, and you had to give advice to other founders wanting to follow the same path, what's one thing you wish you would have done differently? And then what's one thing that you were like, totally nailed it, I'd do it the same again, I advise everybody to do it?
Hire a coach sooner. I know better. My father's a coach. My sister was a coach. but two of my advisors are coaches, very high level coaches for some of the largest people in the world. And yet I did not, at the time I started the company, I did not have an active coaching relationship with anyone. And that, I joined a small group, kind of like startups.com founders group, just before founders. And that made such a huge shift in not letting me shy away from things I didn't want to look at, or that my brain was just making a scotoma saying it wasn't there. So get outside perspective early and often, because little mistakes that you think, or little things you think you can let go for a few weeks, can be really difficult to shift later, or opportunities you could take now could make your life so much easier in a few weeks. So both ways.
Yeah, 100%. That's a lot of people misconstrue coaching. Like there's a difference between kind of the popular version, popular understanding of coaching and executive coaching, especially with high performers. It's not about fixing anybody. It's all about optimizing and pointing things out and helping high performers perform even better. So that's what you wish you would have done earlier. What's one piece of advice you're like, I knew this from the start, I'm doing it best practice? What would you advise? Think about all the people that we interact with on startups.com in our community.
Have more, I mean, it's almost the same advice, but have more advisors. Like, I'm CEO and CTO. I have probably reached my limit of CTO abilities. I'm not a developer. I don't code, but I have a very like an engineer's mind. So I've got to play that part, but I have definitely not taken enough. I have not found enough resources and advisors to really help me along. And there's some major pieces that I could have done so much better if I had just found those resources in a community. And I forget who said this, but they said, I heard this like 3 days ago. It said the success of a CEO, the success of a founder is always linked to the amount of help and advice they seek from their community and from people that are better at what they're doing than they are. It's an unrefutable stat that you need to be asking for help always and taking opinions always, and then have the mental ability to process whether you use that or not. But
yeah, it's not only that, but it's doing it in a way where you're a leader, right? So it's not just running around saying, I don't know anything, help me, type thing. It's saying, I'm a leader and I will be better if you are here advising me. I am secure, humble, and smart enough to bring other people in the room who are smarter than me, but ask them the right questions, position them for success, organize everybody to work together. And that's not a skill everybody has. Where did you learn how to do all this? Just from your experience in the world of coaching, or how do you develop yourself to become the CEO that can bring in the people to advise you and build the team that you did?
I mean, I definitely credit this with, I've listened to my dad listen to personal development tapes, because I'm older, I guess, to remember tapes and CDs. So, I was the first kid in my school to get an iPod in 2001 or whenever that was. And the only thing I had on it was Tony Robbins and Brian Tracy. And like, as a freaking 6th grader, 7th grader, that I would literally be like holding a headphone in my hand in study class, listening to this stuff. So like filling your brain, what's the old statement? As I think, so I feel, as I feel, so I do, as I do, so I have. And it's that whole thing of like changing your thoughts, only filling your head with the things that you want to move towards. You can learn anything, but should you learn it is something I've had to learn. There's a lot of useless learning. And one of my favorite stories that I heard that changed like a daily practice for me, this I guess would be another, like a daily thing I could offer another founder. And I wish I could remember the whole story, so I'm going to tell a really short and terrible version of it. But the theme is thinking time. So it wasn't Rockefeller. It was one of the big, maybe you know the story, one of the big magnates of business, right? Some guy was like going to get to go pitch him. Like, okay, so you're going to walk in this boardroom, you're going to get 30 minutes. 5 minutes in, this guy's going to walk in and sit down next to you. He'll be a little short, bald man with a notebook. And if he gets up and leaves before the end of the meeting, then you know that you have a deal. If he stays the whole meeting, you know that there's some questions and some problems. So whatever. They have their thing. He doesn't leave. And at the very end of it, he gets up and walks out and walks away and comes back. And this was a deal to like merge ExxonMobil, I think is what this deal was. It was not like a small deal.
Sure.
And he basically said like, okay, came back in, I don't have time to do this now. Let me look at the next time I'm scheduled to think. And he pulls out his notebook and says, like Thursday the 24th. That's in, it's in 10 days from now. You'll have your answer on Thursday the 24th, whatever that was. And he's like, I have to ask, why Thursday the 24th? And he said, well, that's the next time I'm scheduled to think. And it was this idea of scheduling time to do nothing but think, sit down, and there's obviously great ways to like have, he has these 3 questions he asks himself, and I really should remember his name, to prompt that thinking session. But you have a couple ideas you want to go and you answer these 3 questions about it, but you can make any question that's useful to think about. So that's something that I see the most fruitful benefits from weekly or daily is just scheduling time to open your brain up and just let any idea be a good idea and really see where it can go. And that has let me make a lot of the decisions I need to make very quickly, and also release that fear of making the wrong decision. Because I think as a founder, you have to make decisions way faster than you realistically can vet every decision. So doing this can help you move through that process faster.
Profound and insightful. Appreciate you sharing that. That's amazing. Selfish question. Last question. What's been your experience in the community, startups.com, with all the other founders? You graciously contribute as a community leader, which we really appreciate. What's that been like? What would you recommend to other founders?
Join immediately. Startup founders are the only group of people on earth that seem to not have a place to go to meet other people. Like if you walk around town, like serious question for you, Ed, before I answer, how many founders have you met in everyday life?
None.
Just like accident.
Like
neither
literally none. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not something you can walk into a coffee shop and be like, oh, there's a founder, or like even at like a network, even networking. Not really. So I think that the biggest thing is that I have gleaned from it and my experience has seen from it is just that there's more of us out there and we all have similar problems, and it's okay to have those problems. And there's resources for every single one of those, and everyone wants to help. And just to know there's a community out there, know there's other people like you out there. You're not on an island, and you're not going to be successful on one. And it's good to talk about the thoughts and feelings you have around things. And there's, places that you can share that, and you should. So that's been my experience so far. Is it's wonderful to see how vibrant the community is, how self-led it is. Obviously, we're all startup founders. Of course, it's self-led. I wouldn't expect anything else. And as always, it's opportunities to step up and lead, just like in anything. I think most people have this default thought of like, I show up and just get to be a participant. But in almost everything in life, if you want to be a leader or a speaker or a whatever, there's a really easy way to do that. You're just not seeing it. And there is here too. So I think that join, lurk, learn, and then when you see your opportunity for where your magic shines through, step up and be a leader in that thing.
Lurk and learn. I've never heard it put that way, but that's a lot what a lot of founders do in our community. This has been absolutely fantastic. So what is the best way? Obviously, you're busy. We don't want to monopolize your time or distract you. What's the best way if people want to have a conversation with you and what have you? What's your invitation?
If you're part of the community, reach out on Slack, on the Founders Group Slack. Absolutely. Also happy to talk to anyone that wants to reach out. My email is Cole, C-O-L-E, @stageconnect.co, website stageconnect.co. So shoot me an email. I'm happy to have a conversation with anyone who wants to be a founder, wants to join, whatever.
Okay.
If I'm busy, I'll tell you, but I'd love to have a conversation.
Fantastic. I'll put all that contact information in the description for this video. This has been great. I look forward to seeing what happens. I look forward to seeing Tony Robbins use your software soon. And thank you again. I can't say enough about how insightful, illuminating, and inspiring this has been. Thanks, Cole.
Awesome. Thanks, Ed.